What is up, folks? Welcome to the latest episode of the Harold McBasketball Show. I'm your gracious host, as always, Harold McBasketball, along with my co-host, I Know Ball Paul. Paul, how are you, man?
I'm doing fine, man. Allergies are kicking my ass, but
Nice.
the weather is getting nicer. The flowers have all bloomed, and it's playoff basketball. It's the second round, and most of the series are pretty electric. They're all pretty close, and yeah, I'm kind of ready to just react and talk to you and see what we've seen. I don't think we've made a video since maybe before the first round, or maybe we reacted halfway, but
We did have a good halfway reaction video on the first round, but this is our first time talking about the second round of the NBA playoffs, and I think we're doing it a good time. Because there was a lot of content coming out after the first two games for most of the series. Obviously, things are wild with Denver losing the first two in Denver. Things are definitely spicy with OKC going up on the Mavs at first. Knicks take the first two games. So it felt like a lot of these series were like done after the first two games. We patiently waited. We knew teams were going to come back. And now this feels like the right time to talk about it, where a lot of these series are now evened up 2-2, all of them except for the Celtics series. And I guess now Knicks Pacers after that game just wrapped up. We're recording this right after it.
and that'll be three
Um,
three two in the Knicks' favor. Yeah.
yep, exactly. That feels like a great series. So yeah, we're hitting an interesting time where a lot of these series are super tight right now, super back and forth. A lot of them feel like they could potentially go to a game seven. So it's a great time to talk about it, I think.
And we were patient. We didn't overreact to any series. I wasn't in a group chat texting that Denver maybe was overrated or anything like that. We were very
Of course not.
level-headed. I didn't say Denver was overrated, but I did start questioning maybe if they were truly a dynasty and all this stuff, but maybe we start there because
For
what
sure, for sure.
yeah, what a funny series. I mean, it went back to Minnesota obviously. They won the first two games in Denver, which is kind of shocking because I mean, Denver is a tough place to win. It's the high altitude, but obviously the Nuggets are an incredible team. And then for the Wolves to win and in the fashion that they did, for me, it was like a bit of alarm bells, like, okay, how are the Nuggets getting destroyed like that? And then they beat the Timberwolves, in the two games back. And now I'm kind of, I'm feeling the Nuggets a bit more again.
Yeah, it's super interesting series. I felt like a genius after the Timberwolves won the first two games because that was kind of my cheeky pick for round two. Because like the Timberwolves really did just build this like super aggressive young team, awesome hounding defenders. Edwards looks like maybe the best player in the league, at least top three, top five, something like that. And to win the first two games in Denver, defending champs, that felt absurd. That felt like such a massive sucker punch that everyone thought the series was over, myself included. Like that's how it felt. It's like I don't think anyone was thinking sweep. I think everyone knew the Nuggets would at least battle back to get another game or something. But for the Nuggets to come back and win both of those games, then in Minnesota, to where now a home team has never won this series, is super weird. This is one of the weirder series that I have ever seen, but it's definitely been an amazing one. It feels like these could be the two best teams in the West right now. They've just been going, they've been trading blows essentially, knocking each other out when they're at home. So it's been amazing to watch. I don't know. There's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, and Gobert sat game two, and they still held, I think, the
Yeah.
Nuggets to under 90 points. You had like Jaden McDaniels and Nikhil Alexander Walker just swarming the fuck out of Jamal Murray. Karl Anthony Towns was looking back in form, and Anthony Edwards, like you said, looked like, maybe the best player in the entire playoffs.
Yeah. We
Um,
also had the ice pack instance as well with Jamal, where he threw the ice pack onto the court. I think that was game two when they were getting destroyed again. Notably, he was not ejected or suspended. I think it was fine not to suspend him, but it also felt like the series was wrapped up. So now I bet Nuggets fans are a little pissed about that there was no repercussions for it. Because he certainly played a lot better the next two games. It's been this weird seesaw of Anthony Edwards has been dominant all series. Same with Jokic, although Jokic, even more so the last two games. But there's been this weird like seesaw of like whose other players are stepping up. the first two games they were in Denver, Cat was playing amazing. Gobert didn't play the second game, but still played really well in the first game. The defense was great from everyone on the Timberwolves. And other guys on the Nuggets are kind of struggling where like Jamal wasn't scoring great. Same with MPJ. And all of a sudden, last two games, it's like, Jamal's been really nice. MPJ went off in game three. He's like sneaky, one of the best shooters in the league at 6'11". He's actually super underrated. And then game four, you have like this super weird Aaron Gordon game when they're like, yeah, this guy's like still really good. Like, don't forget this guy was like I think he was like the sixth overall pick or something, 8 years ago now at this point. But he's still like a really talented offensive player. And you do realize that the Nuggets do have a lot of just underrated pieces. It's not all about Jokic. Like the depth is there. And the right guys have been stepping up. So it's gonna be interesting to see who steps up tonight, because that might be what it comes down to. Like, does Cat show up this game? Do we get another big game from like MPJ or Aaron Gordon? Who knows? But it kind of feels like those players who are fighting on the fringes right now are the guys who are going to decide these games and decide the series.
I agree with that. Yeah. And I think Cat might be the biggest one that might decide this series, because when he plays well, I mean, he's like an all-star caliber player. And then there are games where I just feel like he's really not all there mentally for he'll make pretty big lapses on the defensive end, and just yeah, and I don't know. I'm very hot and cold on Karl Anthony Towns, and because he is a very hot and cold player, but I don't know if I trust him to be dominant, all the way through the rest of the series. So I more so trust kind of those Denver role players to keep stepping up. And I think Jamal Murray has kind of gotten his two bad games out of the way, and we're just gonna see him on a burner. So I kind of expect Denver to win tonight, especially back home. It would be kind of shocking if they lose three at home. And then,
Mhm.
maybe the Timberwolves take it back at their home court, and I could see it going game seven. But I think I am leaning Nuggets for the reasons you said. I kind of think their role players are kind of more consistent, because yeah, we know Jokic and Ant are gonna go crazy, and it's more about their second options. And Jamal is better than Karl Anthony Towns, and their role players I think are better than Minnesota's.
Yeah, I think that's well said, where essentially with Minnesota, it's like that Edwards is going to go off, but you really also need Cat to go off in order to keep up with the Nuggets offense. Because with the Nuggets, it's like they don't necessarily need Jokic and Murray to go off on the same night. Like Murray can kind of have an off night, and then guys like MPJ and Aaron Gordon can pick up the slack. But the Wolves don't really have those other explosive offensive players to pick up the slack if Cat's not playing well. Like if Cat's not playing well, there's no one else out there. Like it's not going to be like Gobert is not going to step up. It's not going to be Slow-Mo. It's not going to be McDaniels. It's not going to be old Mike Conley. They just like don't have like a third or really even like a fourth um spark plug offensive scorer. So like if they don't get anything out of Cat, they're kind of screwed. They're just not going to score enough.
Yeah,
And
they. I was gonna say.
yeah, let me say one more thing. All I was gonna say is like you kind of saw it last game where it's like Cat doesn't play great, and like Anthony Edwards scores 44 points, but the entire team only scores 107. So it's like you got like Edwards scoring almost like a half the team's points and no one else is really doing anything. That's kind of the big concern with the Wolves right now. But go ahead with your point.
No, that yeah, they rely so much on their defense, and like I think they do have some shortcomings offensively. And their defense is excellent. They swarm and they switch extremely well, but yeah, like Ant's gonna get you the 30, and then you hope that Cat can get you like 20, and then you get 10 here and there from other guys. But ultimately, Cat has to be the next best offensive player there. It's not gonna come from really anyone else. Like, I mean, Mike Conley can give you a little bit here and there, maybe Alexander Walker, Naz Reid, but um, the Nuggets, like you can have an Aaron Gordon game, you can have an MPJ game, you can certainly have a Jamal Murray game. So, um, yeah,
Yeah, I agree. And thank you for bringing up Naz Reid, because I do think I omitted Naz Reid when I really should have mentioned him as kind of being their spark plug third scorer. He was like so electric the first two games.
yeah.
So he is also another guy who can like totally step up for them. They would just need that to happen. So this game tonight is gonna be like totally sick to watch. I think I'm still gonna roll with my Wolves just because I've seen some good things out of them. I'm still bullish. But I do think that the way the series has gone now, tilt slightly in favor of the Nuggets, where it's like they've just won two in a row. They've got momentum. They go back home for game five. And if they win this, definitely huge for them. But the Wolves have looked great, and I think they can still reclaim some of their defensive prowess that we saw in the first two games. So I don't know. I think it's such a good series where it's kind of so hard to predict who's going to win each night that I don't even know if I've got like a logical reason for why the Wolves could win tonight, but they could just do it. Like if the guys just play well, they'll win the game.
Yeah, and I mean, Anthony Edwards is such a sure thing, and then they'll make adjustments. I mean, I think they're doing Cat on Jokic, and then they kind of have Rudy as kind of the rover. And I think Denver just made adjustments. I don't really know what adjustments they made, but I they were there. Um, and Jokic, completely ate on whoever was defending him, and um, yeah, incredible what he's able to do. I don't know. I'm always shocked by the energy and
Yeah.
distance of a guy that looks like Jokic. No offense to him, but
Yeah, and maybe the biggest concern for the Wolves, and then we can kind of talk about somebody else, is that it could just be an example of like this Timberwolves defense. Like, yes, is very legit, but maybe just took Jokic 2 games to figure out the defense, and
yeah,
now he knows how to beat it. And if that's the case, then they might just win this in six. Because you're right that it really feels like he has figured out how to have his way inside again. Because I think game one he only had like 16 points or something like that. Like really struggled offensively. But like the last game he had 35, 7 and 7, 27 points the game before. Like not only is he's just like this hub of the offense yet again, but he's scoring like a superstar, which you don't always get out of Jokic. So yeah, he's kind of playing on another level right now, which should be a big concern for the Wolves right now. They got to figure something out defensively. Just kind of put something new in front of them.
yeah. I guess my closing thought here was, when they went down to, some doubts did crawl into my head, and I'm not doubting Denver for being a great team, but I was doubting if they were as great as I thought after last year, after that championship run. They seemed like, unbeatable in a lot of ways, and I think the Timberwolves showed that they are beatable. But um, Jokic has reassured me that he is the best player in the NBA, and that they could lose. I could see the Timberwolves, winning in seven, but my confidence in Denver has been, I'm reassured, and I think this is a dynasty team, and I'm still pretty confident with my pick that they will be in the NBA Finals with a good chance to beat Boston. Although I'll let my bias, take Boston, but I think Denver has a very good chance of repeating.
Yeah, Denver's definitely built for it, but I do think the Wolves showed a little bit like this team is beatable. It's like no one will ever have the league on lock for several years in a row. It's like there are always other teams that are getting better, retooling. Timberwolves are a great example of that. Even if they don't win this series, like they're always going to be competitive with the Nuggets in the playoffs. I think from here on out, which I think is going to it's going to. I still think they can be a dynasty, but it's going to make it a lot harder with all these other teams just getting better. And a lot of these other teams in the West look really good right now too. Like OKC feels like they're coming up to be, maybe they're still like a year or two behind the Timberwolves right now, but I think they're really up and coming in the West. Mavs look good. We could transition to that series now, but it's definitely very competitive right now, the Western Conference.
Yeah, let's move on to that series. Um, yeah, an electric game four last night.
Yes.
Came down to the wire, kind of a weird ending. I think Doncic missed a free throw to tie it. PJ Washington missed some big free throws, and OKC ended up pulling off I think a pretty big comeback, maybe like 15, 16 points or something like that, and tying the series in Dallas, which is huge, obviously, because 3-1 compared to 2-2. I mean, that is night and
Yeah, kind of a yeah, it was kind of a shitty finish for the Mavericks who essentially were like in position to really take control of this series where it's like, going way back to game one, it's like they kind of got blown out and the Thunder looked ridiculous. To where all of a sudden I was like rethinking everything and I was like, oh my God, are the Thunder like the best team in the West? They look ridiculous right now. They came back down to earth though, kind of games two and three. PJ Washington is all of a sudden like a 22 points per game scorer against them. Like he has been an absolute revelation, which is something we talked about in round one, where we said they really need somebody else on this team to step up and give them offense, which Washington has been, which has been huge for them. But yeah, they didn't quite put it together at the end of game four. Also a weirdly quiet game for Kyrie, who I think ended with 9 points that game. I think it was his second time ending with 9 points in this series. So he's kind of had some off nights. And I think that might be kind of like the final concern with the Mavericks is it still just feels like Kyrie and Luka can never have really good games on the same night. And I think that's like a bit of a struggle because if they just got a little bit more out of Kyrie the other night, like I don't even think the missed free throws would have mattered.
Yeah, no. And yeah, Kyrie kind of struggling this series. Um, but yeah, no, PJ Washington, man, I agree.
Dude.
What a revelation. I was
Yeah.
sleeping so hard on him. I think when the Grant Williams trade happened, I may have said something like I would probably have kept Grant Williams, but PJ Washington is this like 6, probably 9 super versatile stretch. Like, I don't know. Crazy that they landed this guy and he's performed really well.
He's shooting 51% from three this series, and he's taken over 10 attempts from three the last three games. So like super high volume shooting from three right now. He's knocking them down. And it came out of nowhere too, because it wasn't like great for them in the regular season after the trade. Didn't really do anything for them in the first round, because that's when we were saying that someone else needs to step up. We are like, maybe it needs to be Tim Hardaway Jr. Like, I guess he's the third best scorer on this team, I guess. And then BJ Washington comes out of nowhere and he looks like an absolute stud. Exactly what they needed because everyone had always been saying they just need a small forward to plug in there. And he's been a complete revelation for them. So I don't know if this is like a Linsanity run for him and he might come back down to earth, in a couple of games or in the next series if they make it to it. But he has been huge for them and is the reason that this is an even series for them.
Yeah, and I think he is kind of an inconsistent offensive guy, but I yeah, huge addition, and I would take him in a heartbeat over Grant now.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
man, Derek Lively played great the other
Yep.
night. I had
Yep.
kind of go ahead.
I was gonna say like they pulled out the hack a shack on him and
Yes.
they started fouling him a ton and he knocked down most of those free throw shots. So that was good. Not a great strategy for the Thunder. I think they did that more so game three, where it's like I think game three, like the Thunder essentially blew that game by doing hack a shack on Lively and he just hit his free throws. But he's been really good. Like he's hitting the free throws, like he's a great rim runner, great energy guy, super athletic. And Frazier's doing all this as a rookie. Like him and Gafford, like both kind of sharing minutes at center has worked really nicely for them.
Yeah, yeah. It kind of hit me. I was like, damn, Cason Wallace is on the floor, Derek Lively, Chet. There's like 3 rookies in like the fourth quarter playing in the second round of
Yeah.
the playoffs. Chet, kind of an asterisk. I mean, you
Yeah. But like, yeah, second year, but still. It's like he came out of college young, first real year in the league.
yeah,
It's- yeah. And this also been a lot of there's been a lot of Mavs talk, but um, the Thunder have looked awesome. I like the Mavs are my take to win this series. I kind of want the Thunder to win it though. I think the Thunder do look like the more complete team out there. I just love their roster construction. J Dub has looked electric at times. SJ's like always been incredible. Runner up in MVP voting also. Congrats to him. That was impressive. I think he definitely deserved to be in the running. He had a really good season. But yeah, like the vibes are incredible for this Thunder team. And I'd love to see how they matched up against the Nuggets or Timberwolves. I don't know why, but like I feel like with how complete the rosters are for Minnesota and Denver, I'd love to see the Thunder go up against them since they have that like really nice balance of like great starting point guard, great small forward in J Dub, great big man in Chet. I just think that's like great. Whereas like the Mavs feel a little top heavy where they might just get absolutely massacred by Denver or Minnesota in the paint.
yeah. I find myself rooting for Oklahoma City, and they're a team I didn't watch too much in the regular season, and I've kind of, really enjoyed kind of discovering them more in the playoffs. Um, I love Jalen Williams. He had some awesome moments last game. I don't know. He had this clutch basket where he was kind of in the corner, last second, ducked under the guy and had an amazing baseline dunk and I don't know. Love Jalen Williams. Chet, like we said, it's incredible the level he's playing at. And yeah, the fact that they're so young and they have such great chemistry, and Shea drops the smoothest. He's yeah, you can't say enough good things about Shea. All that being said, I still kind of think the Mavericks will pull this one out, and I think a lot of times the top heavy teams, especially the Mavericks, who have such talent there with Kyrie and Luca and their experience and a decent roster built around them, I do think they'll pull it out. But at the same time, I agree with you that OKC might stand a better chance against Denver or Minnesota as a more well balanced group versus Denver. I think could get eaten alive, especially in the paint.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that, where it does feel like, Thunder, a great story, clearly up and coming. Definitely like their future a lot more than the Mavs right now. But I do think the Mavs are just like a little bit older, a little more experienced. They, Kyrie and Luca have been on a couple of playoff runs. Not really together, but like, on their, you know, Kyrie, with Celtics, Cavs, all that before. But like both have a ton of experience, so that might just give them the edge in this series. They kind of just know how to deal with these games, especially as they go closer to game seven, how to play in crunch time in the playoffs, that kind of stuff. So I do think I lean towards the Mavs as well to figure out a way to close this out, even with the more top heavy team, but should be a really good series. And I am pulling for the Thunder because I just love them. I think they're awesome.
Yeah, go Thunder. Man, also an epiphany I had watching the Thunder is like Josh Giddey is,
I was going to bring up Kitty.
yeah, man, his aura has vanished. He seems awkward out on the court, and once a player that I thought was fun and unorthodox, and I think in a lot of respects, of course, he still is, but he's been kind of relegated to just the designated inbounder. If there's ever a time where they need to get the ball in and secure it, Giddey will be inbounding it.
Great
Other than that,
inbounder.
yeah, great inbounder.
Phenomenal. One of the best inbounders in the league, I think.
Yeah, he's an excellent passer, and yeah, I don't want to take away too much from his talents because I think they're still there, but yeah, he's not finding more than 20 minutes. Obviously, all season, yeah, we've seen the inconsistencies, and he really hasn't. He probably averaged like 24 or 5 minutes or something like that. Um, but he played a lot more in that first round series against the Pelicans. But yeah, now it's like 15 minutes. Gordon Hayward also a non-factor. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like he's old at this point. Probably could have foreseen that. I felt like he was gonna have some kind of role, like even though it was just like 10 minutes off the bench or something just to rest people. But yeah, he joined the team late and he's old. I think it's more understandable. The Josh Giddey one is interesting though. I think weirdly, it's like I think there could be like a couple of factors, but sometimes when people do deal with like really strange off-court drama, like sometimes that does like affect people's confidence in the game. Like the dude is like constantly being roasted on social media. Like that has to do something to your headspace. Like I don't think that was a great part of it. And I also just think like as the team got better and more of the young guys started playing, like Chet, who didn't even play last year. I just think it kind of got squeezed out to where he was the odd man out, where they don't need his abilities as much anymore because you kind of always want the ball in SGA's hands, and he's not a great off-ball shooter. So all of a sudden, like he just doesn't really like fit into the puzzle very nicely. Like it doesn't make a ton of sense next to, you know, SGA, J-Dub, Chet. You kind of want another shooter at that um, shooting guard spot instead of Giddy. So yeah, no, he gets relegated to the bench. So it's weird because I've always liked his potential, but it feels like one of those things where the Thunder may just look to move him eventually because I don't know if the fit's totally there anymore.
Shout out Zach Lowe because he totally called that.
Totally. And I was like, this is bullshit. Josh Giddey's amazing. Like he's a great prospect. Like why would they get rid of him? But he was totally right. Like as far as the skill sets go, it's like SGA, J-Dub, Chet. It's like they complement each other so well. And Giddey's a little bit of the odd man out. But I also did not foresee the off-court drama. Had I known that, maybe I would have also foreseen it. Maybe Lowe had some insight on that. He had some insider drop that knowledge to him during the off season. So who knows? But yeah, not one of our better takes. Yeah, I'm out on Josh Giddey now. Officially out.
Even his haircut, once something I considered a beautiful mane, I was like, wow, it's so stylish the way It moves kind of when he runs, but now it looks like a nest. The sideburns kind of
Yeah,
not
now it's
non-existent.
just sloppy.
It doesn't look right now. Um, Mini shout out Aaron Wiggins. He's been
Yes,
kind
he's
of,
been great.
yeah, awesome, kind of versatile wing type of player who's able to score in a lot of ways. But yeah, go OKC. But I do think Dallas is gonna pull it off. Um, and yeah, no, I still think Dallas could be, dark horses, and they could upset a team like Denver, but I don't know. I would definitely take Denver in like 5 or 6 if the Mavericks. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll kind of let's wait for the Western Conference Finals to really dive into that. But yeah, the Mavs still remain a good dark horse, but at this point the West is so good that I just don't know. Like any of these teams could kind of get hot and get to the finals from here. The West is amazing right now. It's definitely the highlight of the playoffs.
Yeah, the West does feel a bit higher competition right now than the East. Should we
Mhm.
move on to the East?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's hit on. We'll do Celtics last, just because I feel like that series is not quite as close as some of the other ones. So let's talk Pacers and Knicks. Knicks just went up 3-2 in that series, but it has been a really tight one. Super tight series the whole time. Halliburton's been playing a lot better than he did in round one. Maybe just because he's had to play better. Going up against a healthier Knicks team, which is more healthy than the Bucks, but like not really that healthy at all at this point. That might be like a good place to start where it's like OG Anunoby looked awesome. He's hurt now. Obviously, Randall's out. Mitchell Robinson's hurt again. So the Knicks are all of a sudden like dealing with some pretty major um, injuries yet again. Maybe the classic Thibodeau coaching strategy of playing everyone 48 minutes a night. But they're still finding ways to win, and Jalen Brunson's still putting up 40 a game. So it's been fine for them.
Yeah, yeah. What a series, and the Pacers have kind of opened my eyes to their potential.
Yes,
Some awesome role players. I mean, Andrew Nemhard, I think has really solidified himself as like a decent role
clutch.
player. Clutch, yeah, what an incredible shot in game 3, or I forget, but incredible deep shot. All right, my cat, I have to let him out. Apologies.
Okay, go for it. Go for it. I will.
Do you
I'll
hear
continue
him or
riffing
no?
about. I think I might have heard a little scratch there. I may have.
Momo, what the hell, man?
Anyway, I will riff about Pacers role players. Yeah, Nembhard's been amazing. Funny enough, like Obi Toppin, I think had 14 points in Game 4, which they won. Uh, at a time that I think the Knicks would love to have Obi Toppin, especially with like all the injuries they've had. Because keep in mind, Julius Randle is also out right now. Welcome back, Paul. I was talking about Obi Toppin and how
Oh, I
the
heard.
Knicks probably wish they still had Obi Toppin. Because he's played pretty well for the Pacers. Like that was a good pickup. So yeah, no, they've looked really good. And I think the Siakam trade was like really underrated when it happened at the deadline because he continues to play really well for them.
Yeah, no, Pascal Siakam is awesome. The stats don't jump out, but obviously he's kind of the secondary guy there, so he's putting up kind of like 17, 18, 19.
Yeah, he goes off when he has to though. Like every now and then he'll kind of throw out like a 30-point game.
But yeah, Aaron Neesmith, TJ McConnell, super solid role players. Miles Turner.
McConnell's been ridiculous for them. He is having, an absolutely phenomenal playoff series.
I mean, if Tyrese Halliburton ever gets hurt in the regular season in fantasy, the first guy I look to is, I mean, maybe kind of obviously is TJ McConnell. You know, if when he gets the minutes, he will drop 10 assists easily. He'll get some points. He'll get some steals. That nobody gets steals like TJ
Oh yeah.
McConnell. He hounds guys off the inbound. Um, and he'll randomly get some rebounds. He's a stat patter. And yeah, I don't know, kind of a funny secret weapon. Um, the Pacers, they're a low turnover team. They play fast and like, yeah, I was sleeping so hard on them as a group. I don't know. Their role players didn't stick out to me. I kind of forgot Siakam was a thing, and Halliburton is a superstar, and we haven't seen as much of it second half of the season, but he looked back in form in game 4. Obviously, I haven't seen the highlights for tonight's game, but yeah, Pacers are awesome, and it's cool that they made this a series.
Yeah, and a competitive one at that. It's like obviously they're down now, one game, so 3-2 series in favor of the Knicks, but goes back to Indiana now with a chance to force game 7. What is better than that? Nothing. So this is an interesting series. I think this one actually might be the most likely to make it to a game 7 out of any of them. Just with how back and forth it's been. Both teams are so equally matched, it feels like. I love the showdown of Brunson versus Halliburton. There's something about just like two point guards going head to head where it's like, because it feels like both of them are just their team's entire offense. So it's amazing just to see them take up the ball just like one after another, and just go at each other. It's been really awesome. And also, shout out my boy Dante DiVincenzo. The aura streak continues. He has continued to be electric. He is such a good scorer, such a good shooter, super fun to watch. His aura is amazing. I love him. And he's been huge for the Knicks, especially with all the injuries they've been having.
Yeah, I've already issued my formal apology because yeah, Dante DiVincenzo is um filled with aura, and it's funny to think back the rosters he's been a part of, and how he probably could have contributed to a great Bucks team, a great Golden State team, who kind of needed role players. And I don't know if there was
Totally.
some injuries or whatnot, but um
They were all very strange because I remember him playing well for the Bucks, and I believe this is like an infamously bad trade where the Bucks thought Serge Ibaka was still good, so they traded him for Serge, who just never played. And then they're like, "Wow, we need someone like Dante DiVincenzo. He's gone." And then he played well for Golden State, and I think Golden State probably had money issues and couldn't keep him around, and eventually made his way over to the Knicks. But he's so good, and I feel like he's always been this good. I remember being really bullish on him out of college because he was so good for Villanova, and also had like one of the highest verticals in that draft class. Like he's also an insane athlete. The guy's a really good player. So it's nice to see him finding a home on the Knicks. It feels like a perfect spot for him, and it's awesome seeing the Villanova guys run it back. It's like Brunson, Hart, and DiVincenzo. It's like all they need is Mikhail. If they can figure out a way to get Mikhail onto this team, it would be amazing. Like that would be so special. I don't it feels like it's not feasible, but I don't know. He's just over in Brooklyn. He's so close.
I have been cooking up some trades on the trade machine. I don't think it would happen, but a Randall from Mikal Bridges switch would be kind of interesting. I think obviously the Nets would not love that, but if there's some picks or some.
There need to be a lot of picks. There need to be like it'll probably need to be like I would say 4 first round picks. I think that'd be fair.
I feel like our disdain for Randall is not as universal as we think, though. I mean, on paper, I think I don't know. Mikal, though, weirdly, like they they won't trade anything for him.
Yeah, and Mikhail, like I think now is like overrated. It's like I don't know if I was a team if I'd be willing to give up 4 first round picks. I think I'd only be willing to do it if it meant I also get off Julius Randle. Like that's how it makes sense in my brain. But like going back to that Rockets trade, like they offered way too much. It was like 4 or 5 firsts and Jalen Green. Obviously, I've already said at this point I'd rather straight up have Jalen Green. I think for any like average team, I think like 3 first round picks is worth it for them, but only if they're bad 1st round picks.
Yeah, and Mikal is a great player, but yeah, I would take Jalen Green
Yeah,
straight up.
he's like a third or fourth option there. He's like he's like the Michael Jordan of Tobias Harris. That's like his comp.
That's Jason Tatum.
I don't know. That feels a little rich for me. I don't know. I think
No, no Jason Tatum. Hey, I love him, but I saw a tweet that said he's the Michael Jordan of Tobias Harris's, and I think
it's
that's
fucking
hilarious.
brutal. He's got too much handle on him. That was more my take is that grade 3 and D guy, but just like no bag, non-existent bag for Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, it's like cool, dude. You play every game. Like maybe take a day, maybe take some games to rest. Like there are more
Yeah.
important things than playing all 82 games,
Yeah,
idiot.
exactly. Yeah. Take a day off, practice your game a little bit. Yeah. Whatever it might be. Anyway, we've got a minute left. We can part two this. Really, all we've left is talk Celtics. Like that'll probably be a pretty quick part two. But we'll catch y'all then.
Sweet. Be right back.
All right, back for part two. Time to talk a little bit of Celtics and Cavs series. This is our last big one for Um, the second round of the playoffs, probably like the least interesting of all of them. I mean, Donovan Mitchell didn't even play game four. Somehow they hung around a little bit. The Cavs didn't have Mitchell, they didn't have Jared Allen. Kept it close and competitive with the Celtics, but the Celtics did manage to close it out, which was good to see because they've definitely had a tendency to blow those close games. Um, just like for like the last 3 years, it's felt like. So good win for them, and it does feel like they've got control of this series now and should be able to close it out. Hopefully in five, worst case scenario in six.
Yeah, but in Celtics fashion, they seem to have played down to the competition, and that's not taking anything away from the Cavaliers. I mean, Mitchell was on such a heater. I didn't even know he why he missed game four.
Yeah,
Like,
it's so random. It's like it was like I think it was like a calf strain or something like that, but it didn't seem like he had any injuries in game three. Like I don't know if it came in practice. I don't know if he like slipped going up the stairs or something, but all of a sudden, like not only was he injured, but he straight up like missed a crucial playoff game for the Cavs. So um definitely made what like could have been a slightly interesting series a lot less interesting. But we'll see, it's not over yet. Like the Celtics do like to play with their food a little bit. So this would be very classic of the Celtics to lose a potential closeout game five in the Garden, to have this series extend. So we'll see. We'll see. No guarantees until game five is won.
that's for sure. And yeah, no, Donovan Mitchell is someone that every once in a while I just watch him and I'm reminded of how much of a talent he is. He can compete with the best, and he plays so much bigger and stronger than, I mean, I guess he is strong, but he's not a big
Mhm.
guy, but he plays big and bully ball, and his three is ridiculous. And yeah, man, he was kind of shitting on us all of the series until he got hurt. So and then yeah, and it was still like a 7 point win for the Celtics. But ultimately, yeah, it seems like the odds are in our favor. Um, I don't know. What do you think of how the Celtics have been playing? I mean, it's frustrating, but at the same time, there's still signs that I think we're the best team, and that we should have a fairly easy path to the finals.
Yeah, I agree. I think honestly, like the biggest issue has just been Jason Tatum has been playing a little bit sloppy. Like, we're kind of used to seeing him average like 33, 34 points per game in the playoffs. And I think, yeah, he did play well game four. Game three was pretty good as well. But like, other than that, he'd really been struggling. And that'd have been a very big concern. Like, I imagine he's probably only averaging like, what, 23 points per game in the playoffs this year would be
Mhm.
my bet, which is like well below his regular season average. So that's pretty concerning. But I think that's really the only concern. Like, if he can figure it out and get back to scoring 30 plus points per game again, I think everything else on the Celtics team is firing all cylinders. Like JB's been really good. I think he's been better. I actually think this is the best I've ever seen him in the playoffs. He's looked really good. Derek White has been electric. He's a god. He's the best player ever. Literally the best. Like it's so disrespectful when people say he's the best role player in the league because he's literally just better than that. He's so good. And I think the only other concern is that like KP is injured right now, but I think it sounds like he should be good to go for the next round of the playoffs. So if he can stay healthy and Jason Tatum can um, get back to scoring the way that we know he can, then I've got no concerns about the Celtics team. And I think they should be, um, I think they should get to the finals and they should be very competitive there against whoever they play.
Yeah, it I'm sure the Pacers and Knicks can make it a bit interesting, but I do imagine that'll be fairly easy. But yeah, like you said, Jalen Brown has looked excellent. I will say there are so many times that he pulls into a shot, or he crashes to the basket where I'm just like, what are you doing? And then he makes it. So,
Yeah.
and he's
I've learned to
efficient.
live with it.
But yeah, man, so many times I'm just like, Jalen, like, why, or like, what are you doing? And then he makes it. So and then ironically, Jason Tatum's kind of the opposite, where he'll hit the nastiest step back, and then recently he's kind of been clanking a bit more. So, um, but yeah, either way, yeah, Derek White's been awesome. Al Horford has looked, his age might be starting to show a little bit. Um, Kind of, slower in the pick and roll defense, and a lot of times guys were just beating him to the rim, but he's doing a pretty good job, and it's still a luxury to have him with, Kristaps out, but maybe a slight concern there for us Celtics fan that Al Horford is, showing his age, and Kristaps is dealing with that, calf strain.
Yeah, definitely important to get Kristaps back. Like we can make Al Horford work right now, but not ideal. Like his ideal role is definitely like come off the bench, give us like 20, maybe 25 minutes a night. Play next to KP a little bit sometimes, but we're asking a lot out of him to be starting center in the playoffs right now with only Luke Cornett backing him up. Who's also been a bit of a pleasant surprise. Like I don't think there's been like a single moment all playoffs where I've seen Luke Cornett make a mistake out there. I think he always makes the right play. I don't think I ever really see him take bad shots. Don't see him make turnovers. Always a solid defender, always grabs rebounds. He's been really good. And then Pritchard has also been electric off the bench. Like obviously, like he's very hot and cold with his shooting, but he just has moments where he really goes off, and his shooting looks so nice.
Yeah, it feels weird to say that Cornette and Pritchard, I mean, after last year, are two guys that are stepping up in the playoffs. Yeah, I've always liked Cornette. He's a kind of a goofy guy. Apparently, he's got a great sense of humor, and he's just a bit goofy. But he's awesome, and he crashes the offensive board super hard. He makes great.
Totally.
Yeah, he's just reinvented himself from, I think, kind of a stretch big earlier in his career to now just a more versatile center, and he's a solid shot blocker, and yeah, I don't know. He makes kind of team first plays. He has his shortcomings. He's not like a god athlete or like the perfect player, but he's, yeah, a luxury to have as a backup big man. And yeah, and Pritchard feels like he's really finally getting his own, and finding his stride. It felt like before this year he really succumbed to pressure, and it would have a tough time like making the shots that he likes to take, which are like step backs and kind of tough layups. But I see them going down now more, and he just plays so hard. So I think he's like an awesome spark to have, and a great role player. So
Yep, I'm a big fan. One player we haven't talked about yet that I feel like I've been complaining about them all the time, but I don't hear anyone else talk about is Drew Holiday.
yeah.
He's been good. He's been solid. We're also about to pay him almost $40 million a year. And the dude puts up like the same stat lines as like a bench scrub. I think he's averaging like 9 points per game in the playoffs. And everyone's like, hustles hard on defense, great addition for the Celtics. I understand he's like the fourth option on offense, but like 9 points, he's shooting like 20% from three. Like he can't hit shots. I think he's averaging like 9 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists or something. Like I'm slightly worried this contract is going to get bad fast. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it's still worth it. We do have a lot of offense, and maybe we just don't need that from him. I kind of struggle to figure out like totally what makes him worth that money.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's like people are kind of conflating him and Derek, and it's like one's bald
Derek
and
is so much better than Drew Holiday. It's like actually absurd. Like their contract should be switched. Derek White should be, I mean, like really like probably neither of them should make 40 million is insane. None of them should make that. I think Derek is probably worth like 25 to 30, probably 30. And then I think Drew Holiday is probably worth like 20.
what were the details of the contract extension? It's like it's 40 a year for like a few more years, because yeah, that is,
I think it's like a 4 year extension. Like the dude is like signed until he's like 38.
man. Yeah, that might have been a bit of an
It
oversight.
it it literally feels like Kemba Walker 2.0. It's like fucking brutal. It's like it's a little bit less than 40 a year. Maybe it's more like 35 a year. God, I haven't like totally looked at the details. I'm really hoping there's a team option at the end of it. I'm trying to see if I can pull it up, but I don't know if like complete details are like totally out yet on it since it's fairly recent. Um,
Regardless,
I
yeah.
don't know. Yeah, super worried about it though. It stresses me out every time I see him play.
And yeah, no, and it was, and at the time he got the extension, I mean, a lot of the dialogue, and I was kind of on that side, was he's an awesome glue guy, plays hard on defense, he makes a lot of the right plays, and he does. Like, I like how he facilitates and knows to play through Tatum and Brown, but um, yeah, he's not, I don't think, the major key to the success of our team. That's Derek
Yeah, and
White.
like
Derek White is the glue guy.
yeah, and for example, like Marcus Smart makes half of that, and it's like, what does he give us to like Mark? I know the big issue with Marcus was he was a little irrational, and Drew Holiday is a much more rational player. Where like he plays smart, he knows his role, he knows when to take shots. Whereas like Marcus loved like taking shots in crunch time when we really did not want him to. Um, but like as far as like stats go and defense goes, it's like super similar players, but like Marcus is just half the price. And obviously we didn't trade them for each other. Marcus was in the KP trade, but I don't know. This feels like a lot of money for Drew Holiday, who's 33 right now. Like, I don't know. I don't know about this,
Yeah.
but who knows? Who knows? It won't matter. If we win the finals, it won't matter. Like, it's worth it if we win the finals.
No, but it is a great point that you bring up, and I had thought about that. Like, yeah, that's a crazy extension for a dude that's 33 and averaging 9 points, and all yeah, like we didn't really see at any point in the season him have like a really hot stretch. Like he was consistent and he played well at times, but
Never. I don't think he had any 30-point games. I don't think it ever happened. I don't know how many 20-point games he had. Probably not a lot.
yeah, let's look at
He
that.
was he was not a great scorer for us. And like looking at Derek White's contract, we have Derek White under contract for one more season after this one, and he's a free agent. Like, can we re-sign Derek White when Drew Holiday is under this contract? Probably not. So if this Drew Holiday contract stops us from keeping Derek White, that's a problem. That's a big problem.
Yeah, and I mean Jason and Jalen are getting paid a fuck ton, and like
Yeah.
yeah, if Drew on the books now and Kristaps, like yeah, probably a major oversight. But in Brad we trust. StatMuse says that Drew Holiday had 7 games with 20 plus points this season.
It's not a lot.
It's not a lot, but it's a stacked team. But yeah, this is a guy that was averaging 20 points not too long ago. So how many points did he average this year? Like 14, if that.
I think like 12.
12 and a half. Shot 42 from three, 43% from three.
That is good. If he was doing that in the playoffs, I probably wouldn't feel as bad about this.
What are his playoff stats? Great podcast.
I'm gonna check. I just look at them a second ago. Yeah, we're kind of in the bonus time anyway. Like anyone who's still here, you're a real fan. We're just hanging out talking shit at this point. We're just being irrational Celtics fans. So playoff stats are 10 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and he's shooting 42% from the field and oh shit, he's up to 40% from three now. He was in the 20s round one, but he's recovered with his 3-point shooting in the playoffs. So that makes me feel a little bit better. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
40.
I guess just a shot volume thing because he was taking like 17 shots per game last year in the playoffs, and he's down to 9 this year, which makes sense because I mean he's like the fifth option on this team because it goes Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, Porzingis, Derek White, Drew Holiday. So he's like the fifth scoring option. So I guess it's okay. He's good fire insurance in case somebody gets injured. Because although his stats like are similar, like I mentioned, to what Marcus Smart was putting up, I think I think he has the potential to score a lot more and a lot more efficiently if needed. So that is good to have. I would just be worried about losing Derek White.
Yeah, and 40 million is just a lot of money. But yeah,
Yeah, just a fuck ton of money.
we appreciate the efficiency there, Drew. And
Yeah. And if we win a championship, none of it matters. Like if you win a championship, like we're good. Obviously, we'd like to win more than one. But like people are under contract for a while, so that's good. But yeah, if we win a title, it's fine. People get paid wherever they want.
yeah. So are you sticking with the Celtics? I mean, we have a Google Doc we make with our friends. Not to boast, but the first round I had every series correct except for Milwaukee and Indiana. I very much underestimated the fact that Giannis would not be playing and overlooked the Pacers as a whole. Um, I don't know what are your official predictions here for the second round?
Yeah, I would say so. Obviously, like staying true to the Celtics, like for sure pushing them through the East. They're insanely heavy betting favorites right now for obvious reasons. The West is a lot trickier right now. I kind of want to roll with it's a tricky thing. I think in our Excel sheet, I think I had the Mavs kind of going as a hot pick. Um, Less bullish on them now. The easy pick is say Nuggets. I'm gonna keep riding with the Timberwolves though. I like what I've seen with the Wolves. I think it's a more interesting pick to go with them. So yeah, let's see what they can do. And I think that would be a super interesting playoff series. Like if the Wolves can get past like the Nuggets and get them versus like OKC and then Wolves against Celtics, I think that would be really cool. Two really like young and up and coming teams in each conference. So that's what I'm gonna go with. But I do think the Nuggets are probably yet again favorites in the West.
Yeah, I'm gonna be boring. I'd say the series I'm most torn on at this point is OKC Dallas. I think that's pretty much a coin flip.
I'd
Maybe
agree
my
with that.
recency bias has me favoring the Nuggets quite a bit. I don't know. Cat and Gobert, I think, as much as I like both of them individually, I do think sometimes they're not the best decision makers, each in their own respect.
Hmm.
Um, I expect New York, as after winning tonight, um, they have the better chances, but I also just like them more on paper. Um, that being said, I could see it going Indiana pretty easily too, which would be crazy. But regardless, I think Celtics are going to come out of the East without a doubt, and I think Nuggets. I'm pretty confident will also come out of the West. And then in the finals, like, yeah, my Celtics biases would have me taking them, but I don't know. I could very much see Denver repeating, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like the Celtics are tough to choose because like we see all the flaws so much where it's like when the Celtics drop like just that game two, the Cavs were like, this showed off our fatal flaws. And now we built the Nuggets back up again, be like the Nuggets are great and amazing, but they totally also showed off their fatal flaws in the first two games against the Timberwolves. So I don't think there's any perfect teams yet. I don't think there's any heavy favorites left. All these teams have proven that they can lose to anybody essentially. So we'd have to see. I would still have to go with the Celtics because I love them. So I will pick them irrationally. But we'll see. We still got a little while to go until we actually get to the finals.
Awesome. Do you want to touch on maybe the draft or I mean,
Ooh,
not much to say, and it's not like I know much about the prospects, but kind of crazy that the Hawks pulled out that number one.
yeah, I don't know what the fuck that was. And like, yeah, and like the Pistons got stuck at five. Like that was brutal for them after just I think it's the second year in a row where they got stuck with the fifth pick after being the worst team in the league. So the lottery has not been kind to them. But I think the Hawks are interesting to talk about. I think, there's kind of two avenues they could go in. One of them is trade the pick, get veteran talent, see if that makes you better. Probably won't make you good enough. I think, I think what I would do if I were them is I don't know. See what you can do with the rebuild. Like, see what player like the best. Everyone thinks Alexander Sarr is going to go first overall, who's essentially this 7-1 defensive two-way center from France, who I think is playing in G League Ignite right now. He looks really good. So I do think that's a decent choice for them, but it is also like a weaker draft, and everyone knows. Like, no one's looking at this draft and saying, oh yeah, it's like the top three picks are guaranteed all stars. Like I don't think there's a single guaranteed all star in this entire draft, um, which is what makes it tricky and why I think we'll see a lot of teams try to trade out of their lottery picks. But
He
yeah,
plays
good
for
for the
the
Hawks.
he plays for the Ignite. There's no way.
I think he does. I think or maybe he plays for Perth.
Yeah, I think yeah, he plays for Perth,
Okay, yeah, yeah, he
an
plays for
Australian
Perth.
team.
Yeah, I was watching let's see. Yeah, I was watching some highlights of him the other day, and like he was going against like one of the G League teams. He was playing against Ron Holland's team. So that confused me for a hot second. Who I do think is interesting. Ron Holland was like the. I'm gonna spew like a little bit of draft knowledge that I have for like the next 5 minutes, and then we'll go.
Yeah, no, do it.
But like Ron Holland was like projected to essentially be like the I think it was like the second highest ranked high school player in his class. Goes to play in the G League Ignite. Doesn't play as well as people expect. Kind of just inefficient, but I mean, in like a draft class this bad, I think he's still one of the best prospects. He's super athletic, has a lot of potential as a shooter, defender, kind of your prototypical like star small forward skill set. But his efficiency just wasn't great in the G League, so he dropped to like 10th in a lot of people's draft boards. But I kind of think he should still be a top three pick. So I don't know. It's like I'm kind of bullish on him right now. I think he's super interesting. Um,
Who's this? What's his name?
this is Ron Holland.
Ron Holland. First time ever hearing
Yeah.
about him, but I expect to I'm gonna study up in these coming months. After the
Yeah.
finals, that's when I start, doing my scouting. But I'm pretty bad about all of the prospects. I don't even know like what Alexandre Sar. I don't know what he offers. I don't think I've seen any of his highlights, but he looks massive. He looks cool, and he's French, so I will be rooting for him.
Yep. Yep. And then like and a lot of the other draft prospects are like there's always like some kind of fatal flaw with all of them. I can kind of like slowly drop more names, but I think the only other one I would mention is Reed Shepard, who I think is super interesting.
He's the
He's just like the
Kentucky.
yeah, just like this little shooter, but he shot 52% from three for Kentucky, which is ridiculous. Like the dude is an absolute sniper. His shooting form is one of the best I've ever seen. He's a little undersized. He's like 6'3". Um, but the shot's amazing. He's more athletic than people would realize as a white guy. Like I think he's got like a 40-inch vertical. Is actually like a pretty decent defender too. So I think he's an interesting pick, especially as the league starts to lean more towards really valuing good shooters. So I could see him kind of jump up the board a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's another like stud on Kentucky too, a freshman, or maybe I'm
Yeah,
confused.
that's a yeah, Dillingham. I think Dillingham's actually projected to go higher. He's supposed to go, I think, anywhere around like 3 or 4. I've seen Shepard more so around like, you know, towards like the 10th overall pick. I haven't like totally decided yet who I think is better. It's like Dillingham's like the more explosive scorer, really twitchy, really good ball handler, also a good shooter. I think probably like 44% from three in college. Whereas Shepard's more so just like a spot up shooter type guy, but I think his efficiency is super intriguing.
Both one and
So
dones.
both one and done's, yeah. Big reason why Kentucky was bad in March Madness is also what's tricky is like both of them were absolutely terrible in March Madness. I think they both had like 2 points each. Like they were atrocious. Um,
What do you mean, 2 points each?
yeah, like I think like Reed Shepard had like 3 points in like their March Madness loss. I think Dillingham had like 2 points. Like they were beyond terrible in March Madness.
God, yeah, that is.
So like that's like a slight concern, but they're also freshmen going against teams that might be stacked with seniors, but slight concern. So it's a tough draft class. Like it's really tough to choose anybody. Because everyone just has some kind of flaw you can come up with.
Yeah, and it feels like after such an incredible draft class last year, we're due for maybe a downswing, but who knows? You never know. And but either way, um, should we wrap it up? And any final thoughts?
Nope. Um, Timberwolves Nuggets right now is 24-24, super tight game here. So
Wow.
excited to go watch that right now. That is the end of the first quarter. So I will catch the rest of this game right now, and then we'll definitely talk about how this series wraps up, how the rest of them wrap up, and then we'll give our Eastern and Western Conference Finals predictions at a later date. Probably this weekend, depending on how quickly some of these games wrap up. But we'll see. Just stay tuned, stay subscribed, hit the bell notification, of course, so you know when we drop our next video. And thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you guys. Go Celtics.
Go
Jason Tatum.
Celtics.
Jason Tatum, please pick it up a bit. You're still great. I still love you, but I need to I need to see you unlock the beast. All right, guys. Thank you.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.